Well, welcome back. We're looking at the inside of an organ, kind of a cross section so that you can see easily what is inside of the organ. And I'm pointing right now to this open chamber. This is where your airflow is coming through the organ underneath of the pipes above it. And when you press a key down, you'll have these mechanisms here underneath each pipe would be opening the little toe hole underneath for the air to come through from the chamber into the pipe. And that's how your sound is started. So again, when you press a key down on the organ, your key is using those trackers as a lever mechanism to open up the toe underneath for the air to flow into the pipe. All right, so you have seen inside of the organ to see how the air gets to the pipe. Let's take a look at the pipes. And we have two categories of pipes for the organ that we're going to talk about today. The first category is called a flue pipe. It's basically flute without the T. Flue pipes, and also reed pipes. We'll start with the flue pipes. I have a selection of flue pipes here today that I borrowed from some other colleagues. And back here, from here to here, are all different types of flue pipes. Also, all of these are flue pipes. So, you're wondering what makes a flue pipe a flue pipe. The diagram that we'll show you in a minute is a close-up of this flue pipe. It will help a little bit easier to understand, especially on the inside of the pipe, because you can't see that today, but I'll have a cross-section that we'll put up on the screen in just a minute. But the different components of this pipe, we have our toe that I mentioned in the pipe chest, where this is where the air is going to come into the toe, up through the foot, and you have a lower lip, an upper lip, and you have what's called a languid, which is inside, and it runs the whole inside length of the pipe, except for a tiny little slit here where the air is going to come up through between the languid and the lower lip. And that area is called the flue. Let's have you see the diagram real quick. The diagram will show you what I'm talking about and have it clearly labeled. So now that you've gone and looked at the diagram, let's take a listen to what a flue pipe sounds like. There's obviously many different types of flue pipes. As you can see back here, some of them are wood, some of them are metal. Some of them have a cap on the top. Some of them are open at the top. Some of them are angled at the top with a scroll. There's all sorts of flue pipes. I will demonstrate some of them today. But this particular flue pipe is kind of the foundational flue pipe called a principal. A principal sounds like this. And we have that on our organ. Okay, so let's explore some of the other sounds of the flue pipes. And we'll start over here with a koppel flute, stopped metal flute. We'll compare that with a stopped wooden flute. This one's called a gedeckt. Little duller sound. This is another type of stopped flute. It's just a different color, a little bit smaller. Sounds very similar. More fluty, I think. We have a roar flute. This is a metal stopped flute, as you can see. A little softer tone. We have what's called a Spitz flute. As you can see, the top is tapered. Very rich sound on that. This one's called an open diapason. Takes a lot more air to blow that. It's a little bit longer, a little bit wider. This particular sound is called a melodia. I have never played an organ with this sound. It just happens to be on this display rack. But as you can see, the top is slanted. It's got a metal scroll up at the top. It's a very distinct sound. It makes a very sweet sound. Very unique. I do want to show you one little thing here. There's, again, in the flute pipes, in the flute family, there's string sounds. We have two here on display today. This is a conical viola. And this is called a viola as well, but as you can see, it's very different in that it's not tapered at the top, just straight. It's very narrow, and it's going to sound a little narrower of a sound, but still very pretty and a very stringy sound. Has a really unique vibrating sound, especially when you're up close to it. But if you'd like to learn more, there is a helpful website that you can visit. It's www.ago.org/young-persons-guide. And that will go a little bit deeper of a dive into some of these sounds and some of the mechanics of not just the pipes, but also the organ. That will be helpful. So, with that, let's move on to the reed pipes. So I'm looking at a reed pipe. It's composed completely different. We have the resonator, which is really the most similar part of it. The resonator being where the length of it is going to matter. Just like on the flute pipes, the resonator, the length of it is going to matter for the pitch. But the way that it sounds is often determined around the bottom portion. We have still a toe where the air is going to come through. Instead of a foot, this is actually called a boot. And we remove that so that we can see inside, where maybe you can get a close-up of this, but there's actually a reed right here on top of my fingernail. It's a little metal flap, and that vibrates. Just if you can think of a saxophone or a clarinet reed, you put that reed in there and you blow on the mouthpiece, and that reed is going to vibrate. And that's what's making our sound on this particular type of pipe. Again, it's called a reed pipe for this reason. It's got a reed. And the way that you change the pitch is you use this little tuner to bring the pitch up and down slightly. And I'll demonstrate the way that this is sounding on our organ. I've brought two different sounds down from our organ so that you could hear them. This is actually an oboe, and again, it still has the same components. It's got the reed inside the boot. And let's show you what that sounds like once you put air through it the right way. We can add a little vibrato to that called a tremolant. Just like a human can be playing an instrument and create a little vibrato. So that is our oboe. The other stop that we have on our grate, there is a trumpet stop. Much louder. We can add a tremolant. Okay, so the last reed pipe that I wanted to show you on our particular organ is called the trumpet en chamade. And again, in a previous video, I talked about that being the horizontal pipes. They're very showy because they jut out straight from the organ, kind of perpendicular to the organ itself, and very loud sound. So a little bit different than the trumpet stop that I just showed you. This one's much louder. It's under much higher pressure of air to get it to be so loud and bright. So very bright. And I can even add an octave to that to beef up that sound. So, again, as we think about the organ, we think about an orchestra, we think about all these different sounds that make up the orchestra, and I hope that today's presentation had given you a little bit more to think about as we dive into the organ and into this backstage pass.